Well, there's a blizzard warning in effect until 10 p.m. tonight here in the nation's capital. As you look at some of the video from today, it is official. It's the snowiest season ever since 1899. 55 inches of snow recorded at Reagan National Airport just in the past couple of weeks, really the most in the last 4 days. In that environment, you have Massachusetts Democratic Senator John Kerry saying if anybody thinks that because of the winter weather that we've been seeing, that climate change legislation is dead, they're dead wrong, and it's inside the Beltway thinking. Then you had an editorial from Robert Kennedy Jr. Back in 2008. He said in Virginia the weather has changed dramatically. Snow is so scarce that most Virginia children probably don't own a sled. Meanwhile, ExxonMobil and its carbon cronies continue to pour money into think tanks whose purpose is to deceive the American people into believing that global warming is a fantasy. Once that was posted today, RFK Jr. followed up. Idiots on the right like Rush Limbaugh, like to point to any cold weather anomalies as proof that global warming doesn't exist. What about this back and forth and where we are on this issue? We're back with the panel. Charles.
I love how he calls it an anomaly. And I'll bet you've got a real run on sleds in Virginia today. Look, this is going to hurt the global warming people and public opinion. It already is way down on the list of concerns with 10% unemployment, and if you're shoveling for the next 3 weeks, it'll be lower down. However, it has no effect one way or the other on the veracity of the science. There is no weather event in any one locality, even a string of weather events, that's going to have any effect on the truth or the falsity of global climate change. I think it's perverse. I mean, it's comical that the establishment of a global warming office in this administration occurs on a day where you have a snowstorm and you have to postpone the conference. It's rather amusing, but it doesn't have any effect on the science. But I think it's perverse when the pro-warming people argue that an event like this is support of their theory, because in that case it'll explain anything. If it's going to explain a snowstorm, it'll explain anything. And in science, if you explain everything, you explain nothing. It has no effect on the science, but it is it's simply an anomaly.
That's right, Mort. Global warming supporters say that moisture builds up in the air and that there's more snow events because of global warming. I heard it tried to be explained today.
If the Beltway circled Vancouver, British Columbia, what would be said right now? I mean, there's no snow in Vancouver, British Columbia for the Olympics. Now, does that prove that global warming is a fact? That, you know, the people, Jim DeMint and Sarah Palin would not be convinced by that argument either. So, look, again, this has become, if terrorism has become ideological, this has become theological. You know, those people who believe in global warming believe it as though it was a statement from God, and vice versa. You know, Rush Limbaugh is convinced that it's human arrogance that even conceives that mankind could be creating global warming. So, you know, all I can say is politically, I hope Al Gore is wrong, because if he's right, the sad fact is that nothing is going to be done about global warming by China, by India, by the United States, because we don't want to cut down on carbon emissions because it's what fuels the economies.
Tucker, we've already talked on this panel many times about how global warming, the phrase, has been changed really to climate change.
That's right.
By supporters. Even
a handily elastic phrase that covers, as Charles suggested, virtually everything. There's nothing that can't be explained by the phrase climate change. I looked out my window this morning in Northwest Washington, and one of the first things I thought of was a column by Ellen Goodman in the Boston Globe, and I checked. It was written almost exactly 3 years ago today, 3 years ago yesterday, in fact, and here's part of what she said. I'm quoting, "Let's just say that global warming deniers are now on par with Holocaust deniers, though one denies the past and one denies the present and the future." That's obviously a repulsive thing to say, but it's also something that you really couldn't say 3 years later. You could not say that today without being challenged pretty aggressively. That column kind of came and went and no one noticed. People have doubts, and they come from illegitimate. I mean, as Charles points out correctly, today's storm doesn't affect the science. But that's not what is causing doubts. It's the proved manipulation of data by some climate scientists have raised doubt sufficient that a real debate can take place. And that is a victory for all people who believe in free inquiry and the scientific method. We need a debate. Theology is the enemy of science. That's true in every case, including with global warming.
I wish somebody would stage this great debate. I mean, I would love to see the best climate scientists on one side versus the best climate scientists on the other, and do it in public, maybe on Fox News.
Sure, do it on Fox. That's it for the panel.